on Citizen TV. This is the Monday Report with Trevor Ombija.
Absolutely. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Monday Report. You're just in time for a fantastic show ahead, because we know now that the circular economy when it comes to waste management is worth $54 billion. But why is it so difficult to take advantage of it? We're going to speak about that because we know now that Kenya produces between 3,000 to 4,000 tons of waste every day. 80% of that is organic waste. There are those who've taken advantage, there are those who haven't, like yourselves. What are the challenges? We'll speak to those who've made money out of it. Dr. Taiba Hatim is here. She's the founder and CEO of Baka Enterprise. James Odongo is the CEO of KEPRO. KEPRO is the Kenya Extended Producer Responsibility Organization. We'll speak to them about what challenges they're facing and what more needs to be done in terms of sensitization. Omiti Odhiambo is the programs manager at the Kenya Alliance of Residents Association. How much of this is the responsibility of the user? And Dr. Ayub Masharia, Director Environmental Enforcement, National Environment Management Authority, that is NEMA. We speak about the link between policy and vitu kwa ground. Ziko vipi? That is a conversation we'll be having later on. We'd like to hear from you. What are the challenges you're seeing at Trevor Ombija at Citizen TV Kenya? Use the hashtag Monday Report. But first, our top stories tonight.
The judiciary is subject only to the Constitution and the law and shall not be subject to the control or direction of any person or authority.
Against rule of law, JSC and Senior Counsel Bar condemn withdrawal of Justice Mugambi's security of a jail sentence for Police Chief Masengeli.
The city of Nairobi is the face of Kenya. And we must get it out, we must get it right in the city as we get it right all over the country.
Battle of the Dirty River. How the Nairobi River sits in the center of the Gachagua-Kindiki Kingpin Games.
Since we have been given a stay order, we are therefore proceeding with implementation of the Social Health Authority Act.
From NHIF to Social Health Authority, the transition to the new health coverage scheme to begin in October 1st, with 1.2 million Kenyans already registered.
And the worst is it could be perceived or could be lacking transparency, accountability, and leading to opportunities of corruption.
Skepticism over Ketraco Adani deal. Kenyans raise concern over the 94 billion shilling deal that will see the Indian firm construct 422 kilometers of electricity transmission line. Well, it's great to have you with us. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Yula Nzale. So we begin with the shock and uproar that has greeted news that the National Police Service has withdrawn the security detail of High Court Judge Lawrence Mugambi, who on Friday last week sentenced Acting Inspector General of Police Gilbert Masengeli to a 6-month jail term for contempt of court. Chief Justice Martha Koome led the Judicial Service Commission JSC today in roundly condemning what they termed an act of intimidation against the judge and the judiciary as a whole. The Senior Counsel Bar, comprising the country's senior advocates, has also protested the move by the police, terming it an unwarranted, unjustified and extravagant exercise of executive overreach. Citizen TV's Ben Kirui has more.
Justice Lawrence Mugambi wrote jurisprudential history last Friday, taking impunity by the horns and sentencing a court-defying police boss Gilbert Masengeli to a 6-month jail term. Masengeli had defied court summons a record 7 times in what goes down as one of the most blatant cases of contempt of court. Masengeli, who is Acting Inspector General of Police, has seemingly struck back by withdrawing the armed police security detail around Justice Mugambi. Outrage from the Judicial Service Commission has greeted the move.
Justice Lawrence Mugambi is entitled to a police driver and a bodyguard. Those 2 personnel were withdrawn yesterday. They were disarmed and withdrawn, told to report to their headquarters. All our efforts to get in touch with them to restore the personnel to Justice Mugambi were unresponded to.
The Judicial Service Commission JSC condemned the action, demanding the immediate reinstatement of the judges' security.
Any benefits or conditions of service related to a judge's position, including their security, must not be varied to their disadvantage, particularly in retaliation for the lawful execution of their judicial duties.
Even before the jail sentence for the Acting Inspector General of Police Gilbert Masengeli is enforced, tension between the National Police Service and the judiciary is intensifying. The Judicial Service Commission condemning the move to withdraw the security belonging to Justice Lawrence Mugambi, terming it as a punitive measure and a direct assault to the independence of the judiciary.
Article 160 of the Constitution unequivocally protects judicial independence, stating that the judiciary is subject only to the Constitution and the law and shall not be subject to the control or direction of any person or authority.
Earlier on Monday, during a meeting with foreign envoys, the Chief Justice had already voiced concerns about the security of judges, magistrates, and other judicial officers, highlighting the increasing threats they face in the course of their duties.
Because we have even witnessed incidences where we are being shot at when we are doing our work in court. We are in a state where judges are being threatened, they are being stalked, their security is being withdrawn, and that keeps me awake.
At the same time, the senior counsel bar in a statement has rallied to the defense of Justice Lawrence Mugambi, who sent the police chief to jail. The bar reiterated the freedom of judges to render decisions based solely on the law and evidence, without fear of retaliation or interference from any entity. Ben Kirui, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Now, President William Ruto has hinted at more evictions of those living along the river and called on the national administration officers in Nairobi County to take charge. The eviction plan is likely to bring further rift between the president and his deputy. And as Kamau Mwangi now reports, the first phase saw 40,000 people evicted from the Nairobi River riparian land.
In a move to further green the city under the sun, the government has moved to scale up its efforts in cleaning up the Nairobi River, which is in its second phase of rehabilitation. While meeting national administration officers from Nairobi at the Kenya School of Government, President William Ruto maintained that the capital city will and must represent the face of Kenya.
The city of Nairobi is the face of Kenya. And we must get it out, we must get it right in the city as we get it right all over the country.
During the event that brought together Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and Interior CS Kithure Kindiki, who seemed to be pulling in different directions within the Ruto administration, the President directed national administration officers to take charge in the cleaning of the river in their respective jurisdictions.
Nobody should politicize or bring in other issues on the cleaning of Nairobi River. It is irreversible. It's a national security matter. We are not turning back.
I am going to work with the county and the entire leadership of Nairobi on making sure that we improve on the image of Nairobi, and I need the support of all the leaders, especially members of the National Government Administration.
Months ago, when the rain struck, the government embarked on an eviction exercise of everyone that was said to be encroaching on riparian land, an exercise that did not sit well with Kenya's second-in-command, who kept going back to the president's promises during campaigns on how his administration would move people from areas government wanted to reclaim.
Let us not have a war with wananchi. Tusipigane na wananchi wale walituchagua. Let us be empathetic. Let us, if people must move, let there be an engagement and let people get adequate notice so that they can prepare for their next life ahead. You can't wake up one morning and terminate people's life.
Nobody will be allowed to re-encroach to those dangerous spaces, because doing so will be detrimental to public safety and public security.
Today's headline stances seemingly spitting in the face of Gachagua, who has been in the front line calling for the resettling of the evictees back to their homes. The onslaught on Gachagua was later taken to Kiambu.
Wewe unasema ndio kusema ukweli, and you are the master of deceit and the master of political conmanship. We want to tell you today, we are focused on the job the people of Kenya gave us to deliver on the projects that had stalled, and we shall deliver.
Lakini tukipiga kelele, tukianza kusozana, maendeleo itaenda kwa wale watu wako mbali, na sisi tuko hapa tuwachwe nyuma.
Kama Mwangi, Citizen TV.
Now, Kenyans have expressed concern over the 94 billion shillings Ketraco Adani deal that will see the Indian firm construct 422 kilometers of transmission lines. Various stakeholders who attended a public participation engagement forum organized by the Ministry of Energy questioned the secrecy surrounding the multi-billion shillings deal and whether there is value for money. Energy Cabinet Secretary Opiyo Wandayi, who revealed that the deal was at its final negotiation stages, hinted at possibilities of a likely increase in power tariffs to facilitate the loan repayment of the project. Seth Olale with more details of the privately initiated proposal.
Adani Energy Solution Limited is on the brink of securing a lucrative 94 billion shillings tender for the construction of 422-kilometer transmission lines. Once signed, the project will see the construction of approximately 222 kilometers Gilgil-Thika Mala-Konza transmission line and associated substations. Substations at Rongai and approximately 99 kilometers Rongai-Keringet Chemosit transmission line and associated substations. Approximately 98 kilometers Menengai Olkalau Rumuruti transmission line and associated substations, and Thurdibur substation. In endorsing the 94 billion shillings Ketraco Adani transmission power lines deal, Energy Cabinet Secretary Opiyo Wandayi told stakeholders attending a public participation forum that the negotiations are in the penultimate stages before contract signing.
Through PPPs, we are not just building power lines, we are constructing the backbone of our nation's economic growth.
An evaluation committee that includes members of the Public-Private Partnership Directorate and the Contracting Authority has been established to undertake due diligence on the Indian firm as well as evaluate the submitted proposals. However, concerns were raised over transparency and value for money for the deal.
And the worst is it could be perceived or could be lacking transparency, accountability, and leading to opportunities of corruption.
The project, which is part of a total investment requirement for the 20-year transmission master plan, estimated at 683 billion shillings, could result in an increase in tariffs by EPRA to facilitate the loan repayment.
If the government can borrow, if the government can get a bond, how long does it take, how much it will be? I need to scratch my head where the 4 point something is going to come from.
1 billion what? Euros, dollars?
Dollars.
The coming few months of negotiations will be crucial for Ketraco in a bid to convince Kenyans of its investment infrastructure through a firm whose arguably its reputation seemed to have come before time. Seth Olale, Citizen TV at Kawi headquarters in Nairobi County.
Now, Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union are demanding transparent investigation into what they say is grand corruption within the health sector. While launching a 2022-2024 report, the union took issue with the awarding of tenders to foreign companies, which they accused of supplying substandard equipment, resulting in massive losses of the much-needed funds. Even so, the union says that the country's health sector is still underfunded by the state. Emily Chebet has more.
The report, which focused on Vermed, an Australian subsidiary of Fresenius, a major German healthcare multinational, suggests impropriety, with the accused of receiving millions of shillings from the Kenyan government as funding to supply equipment to Kenya healthcare facilities. According to the 2022-2024 report by the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union and other stakeholders, there is very limited information on projects handled by the multinational in Kenya. In the report, VAMED projects in Kenya were previously financed by the Australian Ministry of Finance with no apparent disclosure that it was a 13% shareholder in the company.
Without assessing public health needs in local communities, there is no public information, even for county health facilities, on how the equipment supply contracts were negotiated. Another health official said, "I can confirm that no one in my county knows the value of the project or how much was spent or any of the particulars. They were just handed keys after the construction of the maternity."
According to KMPDU, the national government has been pushing county governments to procure medical equipment without revealing the cost implication.
Many counties, the Elgeyo-Marakwet County that we did the project in, Baringo County, Makueni County, all indicated, even Nandi County, all indicated whereby the projects were done, but there was no knowledge of the county governments on anything or any information regarding these projects. We just came to realize through the investigation abroad that some of these funds are actually debts that the government is taking.
The union says that the budget for healthcare in the country remains the reason for poor healthcare services. The report showing that the healthcare sector allocation has been decreasing from 2019.
Most of the counties meet the facility percentage level to population density. But when you look at where we don't do tendering, like the human resource, we are still very low. You go to Nairobi, we have close to 22 facilities that are not functional. You go to like Kisii, close to 17 facilities not functional. Why? What is the driver? It's because at least they have a way, an avenue of ensuring that they put it like a tender, but money ends in individual pockets.
The union is demanding transparent investigations into who is behind the contracts, who profited, and whether the projects are benefiting Kenyans. VAMED in a rejoinder dismissed the findings in the case study, saying in part, and I quote, "We are convinced that the mentioned allegations are unsubstantiated and they are based on incorrect assumptions and are disproven by the facts." It said that all projects in Kenya have been implemented through concessional financing as part of the development finance, adding that the soft loans are used exclusively to support commercially non-viable projects that improve the lives of the general public in the recipient countries. Emily Chebet, Citizen TV.
Now, over 1.2 million Kenyans have registered under the Social Health Authority ahead of the full transition from NHIF to SHA beginning 1st October 2024. Health Cabinet Secretary Deborah Mulongo Baraza has called for collaborative efforts to ensure timely registration and a smooth transition into a system that she says will ensure access to affordable quality health services for all. Medical Services PS Hari Kimutai stated that the ministry has obtained a stay order against a judgment declaring the health laws unconstitutional and therefore affirming that the rollout will proceed as planned.
It is a race against time for the Ministry of Health and the Social Health Authority ahead of the transition from NHIF on 1st October 2024. Health Cabinet Secretary Deborah Baraza
and the ones in pink will
officially launched the nationwide training on the systems that will be used to offer services under SHA, where she confirmed that the registration exercise, which began on 1st of July 2024, is on course.
So far, we have more than 1.2 million who have registered, but we hope to transition the ones in NHIF, and also we hope to identify the indigents using the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection, and then again we want to onboard others in the informal setting.
The ministry confirming that over 7,870 health providers have been empaneled in readiness to offer services, with the CS affirming that the digitization of healthcare services will address the menace of fraudulent claims.
The officers from the NHIF were not able to see end to end how many people have been admitted, but at the end of it, they only receive claims which are submitted to them. Whether those people are admitted or not, it was not possible for them to do it.
Some facilities claim to be offering services that are not available, so we are mapping out and also looking at the services that are being delivered. And equally, that will be matched to the digital platform so that we can also monitor.
The assurance by the ministry comes amidst concern over the state of the rollout in the wake of a court order that declared the health laws, including the Social Health Insurance Fund Act, unconstitutional, null and void, citing, among others, lack of proper public participation. The ministry says that it is awaiting a Court of Appeals verdict on a case it filed challenging the ruling by the High Court.
If you go through the ruling, the judges appreciated the Ministry of Health on the shift, the policy shift, where we want to bring everybody under the umbrella of the Social Health Authority.
In the meantime, once SHA is fully rolled out, formal sector employees will contribute 2.75% of their monthly salaries, while informal sector workers will pay a fixed amount monthly in order to access a comprehensive range of health services. Safin Acheng Oma, Citizen TV.
Now, President William Ruto has appointed a national committee to review the controversial new university funding model. The review follows uproar by parents and university students over concerns that could lock out learners from vulnerable and poor families from accessing higher education. The means testing instrument used to categorize students into 5 funding bands was seen as ineffective, as learners from poor families were placed in wrong bands. The committee, which comprises 4 work streams, will review the cost of university programs, evaluate the effectiveness of the means testing instrument in ensuring that the categorization of students capture their socio-economic realities. It will also refine funding model for TVET institutions and appraise the implementation of the new funding model students who completed KCAC in 2022 and 2023 who were placed in the public and private universities. The committee will also review the structure of student loans. Well, politics is back to church, and politicians have also returned to the use of the pulpit to settle political scores. And it's back to factory settings, with the political class defying a position taken by church leaders, barring them from using the churches to spread politics of division. Stephen Leto has more.
The abuse of the pulpit is back. Politicians and their venom have found their way back to churches, with the past weekends filled with politics in church, disregarding the holy gathering. Just yesterday, President William Ruto led his allies to Steward Revival Pentecostal Church along Outer Ring Road in Nairobi. Later to African Independent Pentecostal Church of Africa, IPCA, Central Western Archdiocese, held at the Ngangarithi Primary School grounds in Nyeri. In both events, politicians spewed venom as they were for one another.
That viper on your hand, Your Excellency, the viper, the snake in your government, please shake it off. Shake it off, Your Excellency. Shake it off, not for your own sake so that it doesn't bite you. Shake off the snake on your hand so that your hand may do what the Lord purposed that hand to do.
Similarly, his deputy Rigathi Gachagua was in a separate church in Baricho, Kirinyaga County, where he was accompanied by his political allies who used the pulpit to tear into his political enemies.
Na vile governor umesema, I am with you 100%. And why to I am.
In June, the Gen Z uprising targeted the churches in what was dubbed Occupy Churches to bar politicians from taking to the pulpit to do politics. The youth even dared the president in Nyahururu, turned up in numbers to occupy AIC Nyahururu Diocese to register their displeasure. Subsequently, politicians were denied a chance to speak, with only the president and his deputy handed the mic.
Huyu nilikuwa nataka huyu Naomi wako
Kuja tu, sema tu jambo just on behalf. Haya, Bishop amesema hapana. Sasa mambo imekuwa kali. Haya, keti.
Our young people have stepped forward to engage on the affairs of their country. They have done a democratic duty.
At the Holy Family Basilica in June, the youth also turned up telling the church to stand and use the pulpit to speak truth to power.
Reject the finance bill. Reject the finance bill. Reject the finance bill. Reject the finance bill.
Nyeri Archdiocese Bishop Anthony Muheria led the clergy to strongly ban politics in church.
Our churches is where people can find peace, can reconcile themselves with others. We cannot turn our churches to battleground and political fighting ground. It's very embarrassing, and I ask God for pardon, even myself, as I think this country should, for the abuses we've seen our politicians making of our places of worship. The places of worship belong to God, and we cannot turn our places of worship to marketplace.
Inafika mahali sisi kama Wakenya tunamkosea heshima kama rais wetu.
It appears now that the politicians are back to factory settings, with the church always having a ready crowd to listen to them, going their own pledge of ridding churches of politics. Stephen Leto, Citizen TV.
All right, on that note, let's take a quick break. Your Monday Report. We're back with much more in just a bit. Don't go too far. Thank you for staying with the Monday Report. Now, hours after Citizen TV broadcast the agony of Milimani residents from noise pollution, the enforcement agencies moved in to close down Qua Steakhouse entertainment joint in Milimani. A multi-agency team comprising of the police, Nairobi County officials and the National Environment Management Authority, that's NEMA, forced tens of revelers who were partying at the popular joint out and shut down the premise. The proprietor of the joint is said to have ignored numerous complaints by residents of the neighboring estates and allowed the club to play incessant loud music at night.
Leo hii tumekuja kuchukua hatua kwa sababu majirani hawalali. Kama usiku wa kuamkia leo tumepigiwa simu na tukakuja tukapima na mashine yetu na tukapata kweli kulikuwa na hiyo kelele ambayo ina affect the neighbors. Sasa kama serikali ya gatuzi tumekuja kuchukua hatua kufunga. Na pia tunaomba wale ambao wako serikalini, hata kama ni rafiki yako, usizuie ofisa wanapofanya kazi yao. Tunaweza onekana sisi ni wadogo, hatuna connection, hatuna godfathers, but you should not intimidate us. You should not humiliate us. You should not frustrate us when we are performing our duties. You may know, unaweza kuwa unamjua fulani ambaye ako serikalini, lakini usitumie jina yake vibaya kwa kuhujumu haki yetu tunapofanya kazi.
So when President William Ruto took office in 2022, he pledged to improve the economic livelihoods of hustlers, including Mama Mboga and border operators, through his bottom-up economic transformation agenda, BETTER, that focuses on agriculture, health, housing, MSMEs, and the digital superhighway and the creative economy. Now, 2 years down the line, is the plan's vision to improve the lives of economically marginalized Kenyans on course? Seth Olale with the status update on BETTER.
With agriculture accounting for 54% of Kenyan households' expenditure, President William Ruto is still banking on the fertilizer subsidy program to enhance food production and reduce the cost of food to the consumer.
We came to the conclusion that the bottom-up economic model was the most optimal for all our productive sectors.
According to the latest update from the Executive Office of the President, Government Delivery Unit, 6.15 million farmers have registered digitally for provision of low-cost fertilizer, with number of fertilizer bags distributed to farmers increased by 7.2 million bags from 1.4 million in 2022 to 8.6 million by 2024. representing a 514% increase. And that reduction in the cost of per bag of fertilizer has dropped by 58% from 6,000 shillings in 2022 to 2,500 in 2024. 24 million additional 50 kg bags of maize from 61.74 million in 2022 to 85.7 million 50 kg bags in 2023, representing a 38.9% rise in maize production. According to the government delivery unit, the subsidy program has lowered the prices of flour by an average of 39 shillings, with the price of a 2 kg packet of maize flour falling from an average of 169 shillings in 2022 to 130 in 2024. However, the fake fertilizer scandal that saw former Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi investigated by a parliamentary committee remains a setback to President William Ruto's agricultural reforms.
It's not necessarily how much money we have. It is the policy choices we make. Where do we invest? And that is the difference between the trickle-down economic model and the bottom-up economic model.
The government states that it has so far distributed 556 metric tons of sunflower seeds to 34 counties, with further investment in seed multiplication and coconut cultivation, resulting in an 8.3% increase in acreage under sunflower farming, from 60,000 acres in 2022 to 64,980 acres in 2024. But just like the fertilizer subsidy program, the edible oil importation deal was embroiled in a multi-billion shillings importation scandal involving the Kenya National Trading Corporation. In boosting the micro, small and medium enterprises economy, the government states that 21 county industrial development centers have been set up and refurbished between 2022 and 2024, and that 19 county aggregation industrial parks are under construction. But with the cost of living still high, President William Ruto's hands remain full 2 years down the line. Seth Olale, Citizen TV.
Time for some business news now. And the Kenya Institute of Supplies Management has launched a nationwide effort to verify membership data, aiming to audit and remove unlicensed personnel operating within the supply chain sector. CEO Kenneth Matiba says that the initiative has already uncovered 17 unlicensed operators within the past 2 weeks, with individuals found in key public offices such as the Technical University of Kenya, the Pyrethrum Processing Company, and the Kenya National Examination Council. And as Jimmy Mbogo now reports, the campaign is also targeting county governments.
Over the last 2 weeks, the Kenya Institute of Supply Management has conducted checks in 5 public institutions. The checks have uncovered 17 officers practicing without the required licenses to operate. The Technical University of Kenya had a total of 12 officers who were found operating without licenses, while the Pyrethrum Processing Company had 4 officers who were not in good standing. The Kenya National Examination Council, on the other hand, had 1. Public institutions are now being put on notice for allowing their officers to operate without the required licenses.
Any employer who employs unregistered or unlicensed person as a supply chain management practitioner shall be guilty of an offence and is liable upon conviction to a fine not exceeding 500,000 shillings, where the employer provided in subsection 1 is a body corporate. The chief executive officer of that corporation shall be guilty of an offence and shall be liable to the penalties.
County governments have also caught the attention of the Institute following the uncovering of 44 practitioners who had operated in the county government of Homa Bay between January 2023 to December 2023 without a license. This followed complaints that were filed in June 2022.
Just like you cannot drive a car if you're not licensed, or if you cannot operate a patient if you're not registered by the relevant body of government. You are also not allowed to practice if you're not registered. Out of the 44 cases, 2 were fined, 32 were severely reprimanded, and 11 judgments will be read on the 27th of September 2024.
The Institute is now calling on the general public to file their complaints regarding any supply chain practitioners who are operating without licenses, even as they caution their members to renew their licenses or risk serving jail term. Jimmy Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Now, stakeholders in the welding sector are calling on the government to improve remuneration and invest in training to support the sector's growth. Speaking at the International Welders Job Fair, experts say that despite the country exporting welding talent, welders continue to receive poor remuneration. Industry leaders now are urging the government to fund technical and vocational education and training institutions to enhance the development of standardized skills and boost competitiveness in the local and international market. This at a time when Kenyan welders are encouraged to seize growing opportunities in Europe, where critical shortages in welding-related sectors are driving demand for skilled labor.
We have 2 guys who have work permits now for Romania. They're almost getting the final step is a visa. So how are we going to buy this guy a ticket to go to Romania? It is the mandate of the youth fund. And you see that youth fund needs to be designed in such a way it becomes a revolving fund. Somebody goes, is advanced that money, and that time there's risk-free because he has all the paperwork. All right? When he goes, we are trying to have a system whereby we get a local Kenyan bank, for instance, or the youth fund, and the employer. So if an employer is taking, say, 50 guys, tell him, Mr. Employer, could you do payroll check-off?
You may be a welder here in Kenya, but once you go abroad to different countries, let's say Europe or the Middle East, you will not be considered as a welder. And you see now there's a gap, right? And this gap needs to be filled. Whose responsibility is it? I mean, of course, first of all, the schools, the TVET organization, vocational training institutions. It's their duty to make sure that these people who are getting out of the school, who are getting the certificate, are identified as a welder. But that's unfortunately not the case, and that is because of many issues. Maybe the resources, which you named it before, or the biggest issue is the skills are not existing.
Now, the port of Rotterdam prides itself as the largest seaport in Europe and has had a huge impact on both the industrial and logistics sector. But the success of the busy port comes on the back of a great commitment and dedication by the stakeholders involved in the Netherlands. Our reporter Dennis Otieno has returned from a tour of the facility and highlights a few lessons Kenya can pick from the European country.
If you have any plans of going to Rotterdam, which is the second largest city in the Netherlands, then your trip can never be complete without a visit to the port of Rotterdam. This is the largest seaport in Europe, stretching 42 kilometers and covering 8,000 hectares of land.
Rotterdam is globally recognized as one of the most efficient, streamlined ports in the world. And that's actually a lot of learnings that can be taken for Kenya.
So how has the port managed to ensure efficiency while maintaining competitiveness? It all starts with management. Rotterdam's port is jointly run by the municipality, which has a 70% shareholding, and the Dutch government, which has a 30% stake. The government does not interfere with appointment of directors.
With Rotterdam, we need to make profits to sustain ourselves, but the cooperation with government and the relationship of the wider purpose and of course also the social responsibility really is important. That's also why a combination of working with commercial companies and government is so important.
Unlike other ports which are limited in terms of function, the Port of Rotterdam has maximized its potential as a gateway, industrial and transshipment port. Kenya is still largely a gateway port serving the Eastern Africa region. This, coupled with incentives to attract private sector players, is among lessons Kenya can pick.
Port of Rotterdam, that of course we select the companies that are operating in the Port of Rotterdam. They are given long-term leases, also specifically long-term, because they really can develop their businesses. So it's 25 years plus another option for another 25 years.
With 131 jetties and 14 container terminals, the port has heavily invested in automation.
So we have the container terminals, which can handle all the types of vessels and all done automatically, so that the containers are transferred as quickly as possible to the hinterland. We also have various cold store facilities in the port where the containers can be stripped, the products are quality checked, can be packed and then be redistributed to the rest of Europe for the retailers.
Handling an average of 14 million containers annually, the port connects more than 1,000 ports across the globe.
The Port of Rotterdam is a good example of what is possible with innovation and strategic planning. Kenya has not been left behind, having heavily invested in basic infrastructure. Dennis Otieno, Citizen TV, Rotterdam, the Netherlands.
So in the island county of Mombasa, plastic pollution is one of the primary sources of marine pollution in the Indian Ocean. This has raised major concern as it endangers marine life and makes coastal beaches inaccessible. To combat this, several enterprises are now collecting and recycling plastic waste from the ocean. One such enterprise is Baka Enterprise, which uniquely leverages technology to properly manage waste in Mombasa's Old Town. Edward Chwea caught up with Baka Enterprise founder Dr. Taiba Hatimi and filed this report.
Old Town, Mombasa. These men are busy segregating waste and properly packing it. This is Baka Enterprise, founded by Dr. Taiba Hatimi to manage waste in this area. Baka Enterprise leverages technology to properly manage waste.
Baka Enterprise is a tech-integrated waste management enterprise that is based here in Mombasa County, and we are on a mission to combat marine plastic pollution. We leverage on technology, which is the Baka app, and a USSD platform, which is integrated into the app to streamline waste from the source, which could be from residential homes, from corporates, from commercial institutions. So the waste is streamlined from source all the way to recycling centers.
Old Town residents looking to have their waste collected only need to download the app, log into it, and through GPS integration, the app picks the location and Baka Enterprise agents collect the waste.
The Baka Enterprise app has 4 main features. You are able to book waste management services on the go, so it works just like Uber. We have a plastic waste segregation, a donation feature, and there is the sale feature. You are able to sell your plastic waste to us, and you are paid a cash incentive. The third feature is the illegal dumping waste reporting feature. All you need to do is remove your smartphone, take a live picture, and upload it on the Baka Enterprise app.
The collected plastic waste is then supplied to plastic recyclers who make different products.
The glass goes to glass recyclers, then the paper goes to paper recyclers. The plastic waste comes to a plastic waste segregation and collection center here in Old Town. We sort it, we segregate it, and then it's collected by our recycling partners. And then the organic waste, unfortunately, is actually ending up at the landfill as of now. We're looking for ways on how we can come up with innovative solutions to actually turn it into compost.
Baka Enterprise has particularly embarked on sensitizing women within Old Town on proper waste management, as Dr. Taiba believes women are the drivers of change in the community.
This way, as an ambassador, your primary goal is to ensure that you are advocating, you're championing, and you are promoting sustainable waste management practices at source, thereby reducing illegal dumping, and you're also promoting the circular economy principles.
Dr. Taiba says her initiative has significantly contributed to proper waste management within this UNESCO Heritage Center, and by charging a fee to corporates and commercial businesses, she's raising money to scale operations. Games.
We see ourselves setting up recycling machinery because we have the technology to streamline the waste. So we want to set up recycling machinery and recycling infrastructure at our center here so that the community can learn that there is value in waste and you can actually have a valuable product and make money from the waste.
Edward Choya, Made in Kenya, Citizen TV.
Time for some sporting action, and Confederation of African Football Executive Committee has exuded confidence in Kenya's readiness to host the CHAN Championships in February 2025. Speaking after their meeting at the Nairobi Hotel, CAF President Patrice said after their tour of the three stadia, they are very sure through the Kenyan government commitment that they will be ready to host both CHAN and AFCON 2027. President William Ruto, who opened the meeting, assured them that Kasarani and Nyayo stadiums will be ready by the end of this year, as Talanta Sports City Stadium will be complete by December 2025.
By allowing us to host AFCON, you have actually given us a brand new stadium without knowing, because we are now in the process of building Talanta Stadium, which is going to be a 60-seater stadium. We've been struggling what to do with that piece of land until you gave us the opportunity to host, and we found something to do with it.
So I want to conclude by expressing my confidence that the CHAN next year in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Uganda will be the very best in the history. Huge amount of resources that's been spent to upgrade the stadiums for CHAN next year in February 2025.
Now, early in the day, the CAF President Patrice paid a courtesy call on President William Ruto at State House in Nairobi. Patrice was accompanied by CAF Secretary General Patrice Mutsengo Omba, FKF President Nick Mwendwa, and Sports Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen. Key among the discussions was the progress made by the three East African countries of Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya in preparations for the CHAN tournament next February. President Ruto assured the CAF delegation that the three countries' presidents are in constant communication and give regular updates to each other. Kasarani and Nyayo stadiums are on schedule to be ready in December, while Talanta Sports City Stadium will be ready by December 2025.
The one we are going to use for the AFCON, as well as the year thereafter. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.
Like that. And then the other one, the other way. Okay. Simba hapo. Very good. Thank you. Thank you again, Mr. Thank you. Yes.
The 7-goal polo tournament concluded over the weekend at the Nairobi Polo Club, with the Turkish Airlines and Vev Kliko emerging the winners of the two hotly contested matches. In the first match, Turkish Airlines secured a 7-3 victory over Light Blue, with Mauricio Andre and Bobby Carrier the star players of the Turkish Airlines. The tournament finale was Vev Edge out Tusker Malt in a dramatic 6-5 victory. Alexander Watson and Julian Cuttin contributed the win for Vev Kliko, while Doc Van Renin scored a hat-trick for Tusker Malt. This was the third tournament in the 2024-2025 Nairobi Polo season. The next event in December is the Chakas and Carols tournament.
Goes and it's Alistair James, and Alistair gets on Boo Googie beautifully backing up by him. Look how he came in, slipped him behind. Now he passes it again. Still Jules. Alex should have taken out that following man. You want to be riding off.
Double Olympic champions Beatrice Chebet is back in the country after securing a 5,000 meters Diamond League trophy in Brussels. The victory capped a memorable season for Chebet, who is now a hot favorite for the Female Athlete of the Year award.
Today,
I just want to say the season have been good. The 2024 season have been good for me. It was amazing here after World Cross Country until now winning a Diamond League trophy. And being a debutant in Olympic and winning 2 gold medals, 5,000 and 10,000.
Now, World Athletics President Sebastian Coe and Zimbabwe's Sports Minister Christy Coventry are among 7 candidates for next year's International Olympic Committee presidency election. In an announcement made by the IOC on Monday, the IOC Vice President Juan Antonio Jr., son of the late former IOC President Juan Antonio, International Cycling Chief David Laparent, Prince Faisal Al Hussein of Jordan, multimillionaire Joan Elish, and International Gymnastics Federation head Morinari Watanabe are also in the running to succeed current President Thomas Bach. Now, the German is stepping down next year after 12 years at the helm. The election will be held at the IOC session in Olympia, that's in Greece, in March. All right, we're taking a quick break here on Monday Report, but when we come back, we're talking about waste management in the country. We know now Kenya produces between 3,000 to 4,000 tons of waste daily. 80% of that is organic waste. It's also a $54 billion industry. But how come we've not taken advantage of it? That's a conversation we're having later on with Dr. Ayub Macharia is here, Director Environmental Enforcement at NEMA. Thank you very much for making time. Dr. Taiba Atimi, CEO, Baka Enterprise, is here with us. Asante sana for making time. James Odongo, CEO, KEPRO, which is the Kenya Extended Producer Responsibility Organization. Thank you for making time. And Omiti Odhiambo, Programs Manager, Kenya Alliance of Residents Association, KARA. We'll speak to them in just a bit. We'd like to hear your views at Trevor Mbija, at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Monday Report.